All right, we're gonna get started with, make sure you have a bowl big enough to do this in or you will be so frustrated. So I'm lucky enough to have this giant stainless steel bowl or aluminum or whatever it is. And you start off by pouring the Masa or the corn flour into the bowl. And we just typically use a full bag because it usually fits in the bowl and makes a good batch. Okay, then to the flour, you want to get a whole container of, Mom prefers chicken bouillon, but it is the end of 2020 and finding chicken bouillon that's not in squares is pretty difficult, at least where I live. Mom doesn't like the powder, but if you can't find bouillon, then you have to get something. And you just put the whole thing in there. But if you can find bouillon, Mom would tell you that's what she thinks is better. So then approximately 3 tablespoons of chili, but everything is based on your taste. So once you add everything, if you taste the masa and you decide it doesn't taste the way you were hoping it would taste, then keep adding stuff. I have been told that, and actually I would agree, that when my sister makes these, she puts a lot more bouillon. At least the flavor tastes like there's more bouillon in it, and that's fine because that's what she likes. So I think through this whole process, if you taste it and you don't like the taste of it, then just add what you like. I think this could use a little bit more chili. That's good. And then at this point, you're just mixing it in real good to get all the powdered stuff mixed in well, so nothing is like, so every bite has equal amounts. So just take some time to spin your bowl and mix, and you can break up any clumps you find. Usually there's not many clumps, but sometimes the chili has clumps, the masa or the flour has clumps. Sometimes even the bouillon will be clumpy. Okay, I think that's good. So then once your dry ingredients are done, which, let me just look at the recipe to make sure I didn't mess something up. So then what you do is you put in your approximately 2/3 of a pound of lard, and you just put it right directly into the dry ingredients. And what you're doing now is just incorporating the lard into the flour until it's even. So you want to get all the flour mixed in with lard. So this takes a while, and you just kind of break up the lard as you find clumps of it, and turn your bowl, and you just want to get the lard mixed in until there's no clumps left. And so just take your time and find all the big clumps, and make sure you're reaching down to the bottom of the bowl and just breaking up the big clumps of lard as you find them. And this was a little bit strange because if you ever use lard with my grandma or my mom, it was typically the one that came in a blue box, and you can still find that. And what we used to buy is a brick, so a 1 pound brick of that lard, and then use about 2/3 of it. And of course, grandma and mom didn't really measure things, so I think that was just an estimation. So we got lard from a local butcher, just because we're in Boulder County, I guess, and people got to be extra. And so we decided to be extra, also to give the butcher a little bit of business. But anyway, so it comes in quarts, Because again, everybody has to be extra. Ooh, I just found a big clump. But I think that this could use a little bit more lard. So I'm gonna ask Chris to give me another scoop.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So again, I think it's hard to know if you have never made this what it should feel like. But I don't know, it felt like it could use a little bit more fat in it. And so that's why I added the lard. I know people make vegetarian tamales. I don't know what you'd put in.
Crisco.
Oh, Crisco.
And vegetable, I don't know, do they sell vegetable bouillon powder?
Yeah, I guess so. I have never tried it with anything but lard. But I will just keep saying it. Honestly, I think even between mom and grandma recipes, mom added things and changed things the way she liked them. And I've done the same thing with recipes. So as you start making these recipes yourself, if you find you like something, try it out. Even though I think it's really bizarre to find chunks of corn in masa, but I know people do that. So be adventurous, and you know what you like. Some people even like sweet tamales. I don't care for them, but I suppose when you make a sweet tamale, I wonder if they put sugar in the masa. Okay, so this feels like it's incorporated pretty well. I'm not feeling any more big lumps of lard, and that tells me that I've probably got most of them. Even if you missed a big lump of lard, you can always go back, or as you're mixing in the stock, you can break it up. But this feels really good. I'm not feeling any big clumps of lard, so I think that it's incorporated well. So the next step is to start incorporating your chicken stock or broth, and you really just start dumping it in. That's good. And just start mixing. Feel free to be generous if you've used the whole bag of flour. This flour is very thirsty, so you might pour in 4 or 6 or 8 cups and think, really that's enough, but it always takes more than you think it will. And so we'll go ahead and already put some more. And as you're stirring, make sure to always dig down to the bottom. And was there other?
Yeah, you want to use the other one first?
Yeah, why don't we just use it?
Okay.
So Chris made some chicken broth when we made the chili. She made some chicken broth, and that's what we're using first is the, thank you, that's good, is the leftover. So when you cooked your meat, of course you use a little bit of that. It's really a broth because you cooked your pork roast and or your chicken in there. And so don't throw it out because it has a lot of really good flavor. And so we just put it in containers and put it in the refrigerator. And now we bought some stock, some box stock, but we are using this juice from cooking the meat first. And I am the world's messiest cook, so don't be surprised when it starts to look pretty messy. And it's kind of hard not to be messy. I can't believe some people wear white when they do cooking shows. I could only do that if it was a Nickelodeon thing where you don't end up with slime at the end. So just keep mixing. And really all you're doing is incorporating, that's good, as all the broth into the flour until you get the right consistency. And Consistency is another thing that differs between families. Some people make their masa as loose as cake batter. We have never made it that loose. I think over the past 5 years or so, as we've been making this, I feel like we've been loosening the batter up some. So again, as you're doing this with your family or whoever you're learning this recipe with, that's good. You can determine how loose you want your batter. And when people do the batter loose like cake batter, or the masa like cake batter, they really make tamales fast. They just smear it on. That's pretty fancy, but this is going real well. The only negative thing is we housed the chicken stock in the refrigerator, so it's a little bit cold. Chris had the foresight of pulling it out to let it get the chill off a bit, and it's still a little bit cold. You can see as I'm flipping from the underneath that there's dark, or not dark, but dry patches. So you really want to make sure as you're mixing that you're pulling from the bottom, because it's easy to leave a dry patch, and then once you're making tamales, that dry patch is not your friend. Okay, I need more. And I haven't even really been keeping track of how much we've been putting in yet.
It's about 2.5 pints maybe. And then this, I think, is a 4 cup.
Okay. So I'm still being pretty generous. I'm still having Chris pour in pretty generously, because it's still pretty not loose enough. And so you can see it as you start getting closer to the more loose texture. It takes the broth a little bit longer to mix in there. But there's still little dry patches. I don't know if you can see them as I'm flipping the masa from the bottom. There's still little dry patches of flour that aren't in there. And you also want to make sure you're mixing and squishing and squeezing and breaking up any chunks or any clumps that have formed. Now, some families that have stand mixers will throw it in the stand mixer, and that's fantastic. I still see some dry spots, but we're getting really close. So I'll also be lightening up on how much liquid we're putting in. And honestly, at this point, I usually go say, Mom, what do you think? So I'm gonna have to start figuring that myself if I'm trying to help people learn. I'm gonna taste it.
I already did.
You already did?
That's good.
Oh, it's really good. Okay, just about half a cup. That's good. Thank you. You see, I have a helper. Honestly, that is really important if you're not using a stand mixer, because if I had to stop and grab my own ingredients, talk about mess. This would be spread across probably the whole house. I had to go take a pee or something. So, but you see that this is getting really, really loose now. And I want to say we're nearly there, but I'm going to go ask Mom what she thinks. Would you grab the bowl, Chris, and take it to her? So give us 30 seconds.
More broth.
Okay, so we're getting this. I don't think I've been centered this whole time.
Yeah, you have.
Okay. But we're getting this on camera, so maybe if I'm not sure about the consistency, I can pull up the video and feel better about it. but it tastes really nice. I'm really happy with it. I think we flavored it well. I think like I said, I think my sister might want a little bit more bouillon in there, and that's okay. That's the flavor she likes coming out the strongest, and that's great. And I guess I should also say we used mild and medium chilies. So another option is if you want your masa to be a little bit spicier, you can use hot chili. But we're giving some of these away. We don't want to, yeah, a little more. We don't want to burn anybody's face off who doesn't enjoy hot. So we'll keep it mild. And the chili is put in there really just to give it really nice flavor, and it does. When you're used to eating tamales that have a flavored masa, like my mom taught me, which there are really great tamales that have very bland masa, very bland outside, but I think the flavor is what makes these very different. You think it still needs more? Okay, we're gonna go back to the master. And I'll take another taste as we're waiting. Okay,
A little bit more.
a little bit more. You don't want to make your tamales right away. You want to give the masa time to set. You know, for a good hour at the least. That's just helping all that flour really soak in the liquid. At this point, it gets pretty hard to flip the masa over.
Glue.
It is like glue. But so what I usually do is just push my fingers down to the bottom and make sure I'm not feeling any dry spots. And I think we've done pretty well. Is there any more in that box? Okay. The other thing I have heard about masa is that you're supposed to like put it in a stand mixer and let it mix for like, I don't know, 20 minutes and get a lot of air in there. And supposedly that creates, after you cook them, a very creamy outside. I have never tried it. We don't have a stand mixer, so we've never tried it. I always think about trying it. So if you have a stand mixer and you want to give it a go and do a batch that you beat for 20 minutes and one that you just kind of hand mix like this, you could know what the answer to that is, what the difference in texture. And supposedly it has a difference in texture once they're cooked. Okay, I think this is good.
I do too.
Getting this off my hands is going to be interesting. I could just lick it off,
You
but
want one of these?
I don't think so. This is good. So we're going to pause the video. Honestly, I'm just going to clean up, put plastic wrap over this, and then let it sit for an hour, and then we'll start assembling.